right, I think it's time to get started here. It's 9 o'clock. I'm Mandy AO. I'm helping engineer from home our reader this morning. Bruce Cohen, as usual, is volunteering his time from his home studio to provide this service for our community. I think it's fantastic what you do, Bruce. We really appreciate you stepping up and bringing this to our community. Day after day and week after week, you've been really in the long haul since we've been at home. So,
Well, it's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. I've been with the program since the very beginning, and you know how dedicated I am to it. I think it's a very extremely worthwhile service that we provide,
mhm.
and it shows that we just go beyond our video feed. That we touch all bases in terms of communication.
For
So I'm
sure. For
happy to be
sure.
a part of that.
Quick reminder that you can also, if you're watching it on AOC One, we also are on Cypress Street Radio, so you can take us along in your car or on your phone. Go to aocinc.org/CS radio, and you've got the audio and repeats in the afternoon there as well. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let you get started, unless you need something from me, Bruce.
No, I'm perfectly set. I'm all ready to go. Thank you so much, Mandy.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Take it away.
You're welcome. Good morning, Acadiana. Of course, we're going to start off with a coronavirus story, as we have been for the last 3 months. Lafayette area drives state's spike in cases, by Ben Meyer, staff writer. The coronavirus outbreak in Lafayette and surrounding parishes continued to show rapid growth on Monday, with more record-breaking weekly case counts and high positive test rates. The 212 cases reported in Region 4 on Monday was more than double those in any of the state's other 8 regions. Lafayette Parish, with about 5% of Louisiana's population, recorded 86 new cases. Monday, more than 10% of those across the state. There have now been 5,300 cases recorded in Region 4 since the pandemic arrived 3 months ago, and more than a quarter of those cases have come in the past week. COVID-19 inpatient hospitalizations, meanwhile, were increasing at a faster rate in the 7-parish Region 4 than in the days leading up to the peak in mid-April. There were 110 hospitalizations as of Monday, marking a 57% increase over the past 7 days. The most COVID-19 hospitalizations recorded thus far were 125 on April the 10th, following a 47% increase over the previous week. Intensive care units in the region were at 75% capacity on Monday. The first case spikes in the spring disproportionately affected people over the age of 70, but the June spike has overwhelmingly hit the 18 to 29 age range the hardest. Weekly caseloads among that group in Region 4 have roughly doubled every week this month, according to state data. It is not clear how the shifting age demographic will affect hospitalization and death rates. Still, recent positive death test rates and daily case tallies suggest the hospitalizations are not likely to slow down in the near future. Deaths are also starting to increase in Lafayette Parish, with 8 in the past 6 days. There were 7 deaths recorded in the previous 3 weeks. Lafayette Parish's 7-day tally of 618 on Monday was far beyond anything seen previously. More than half that number of cases were reported in the 22 days prior to the hospitalization peak on April 10th, dating to when the first cases were recorded. Region 4 and Lafayette Parish have both recorded greater than 10% positive rates for 3 days in a row. The first time earlier has done so while also setting records for 7-day case counts on each of those days. Those results do not include June 27th because the state did not report any results that day. The June 28th results included those not reported the previous day. Acadiana homeless numbers up. Lifting of an eviction ban could make things worse, group says, by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. And just on a side note, this was brought to my attention last night. I typically try to watch a weekly news program called Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And this is what he talked about. He talked about the fact that the rents and the rent controls were waived for the last couple of months, but that period of time is about to end, and this is where that story picks up. Acadiana homeless numbers up again. Lifting of eviction ban could make things worse, group says by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. More data shows Louisiana could face a significant housing crisis due to COVID-19 once the federal moratorium on evictions is lifted on July 25th. The number of homeless families in Acadiana and statewide have continued to rise, but the state could be dealing with 130,000 households being homeless when the federal ban on evictions is lifted July 25th, according to a report from the Center for Planning Excellence. With a high number of residents working in the restaurant, tourism, and hospitality industries, the state ranks third for having a high risk of evictions. We need to take swift, targeted action to keep people in their homes now, as well as develop longer-term strategies to address the issues that have made such a large group of Louisiana residents vulnerable to homelessness in the first place, said Camille Manning Broom, president and executive director of the center, which informs urban, rural, and regional planning in Louisiana. Many households in Acadiana are already considered homeless, but are in shelter housing. Data from the Acadiana Regional Coalition on Homelessness shows the number of homeless residents in Acadiana has swelled last month to 789, a sharp rise from the 421 in January in its 8-parish region. About 248 households are currently living in hotels in Acadiana. That includes 55 parents, 79 children, data shows. This coalition director Lee Rachel noted during a webinar last week is with the federal moratorium still in place. The agency is still getting daily requests for housing assistance after getting as many as 20 a day in April and May, she said. The number of people who are experiencing homelessness has skyrocketed higher than it's been since we've been tracking this since 2007, Rachel said. The other startling piece of this is we have family homelessness on the rise of almost 200% of what we were experiencing 2 months ago. We are very concerned about the number of families with children who, if the hotel funding ended, would be out on the streets. Statewide, there are 1.6 million households, with about 600,000 of those being renter households. CPEC's data shows up to 281,000 are considered rent burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing costs. Sections of Lafayette have 10 to 15% of households hit that threshold, but there are sections of Acadia, Evangeline, and St. John Entry parishes that have more than 20%. The Acadiana region lost 21,800 jobs in April and had an unemployment rate of 11.9% in May. ARCH or ARC raised $60,000 to help house people and families in 18 hotels in the region starting in April and continued until the federal government began covering their expenses, Rachel said. The number of hotels housing people is down to 12 now. There's a few out in the rural areas that we're still directly paying, Rachel said. Our goal is to help people find stable housing they can move into. Long term, that's a very unpleasant living environment, and it's also very expensive. They can't cook. Trying to figure out how to keep your kids entertained is difficult. Funding to address the issue will have to come from the federal government, Rachel said. Closing the recent gap nationwide will cost up to $31.8 billion over 6 months, CPEC's data shows, while Louisiana will need up to $432.2 million. ARC and other agencies that address homelessness, including the Catholic Charities of Acadiana and Small Community Action Agency, will continue to raise money to help people stay in their homes, but it won't be enough. The issue has not gotten enough awareness in recent weeks, Rachel said. You can't fundraise yourself out of a housing crisis, she said. I think the issue is kind of hidden right now. I think we're able to go about our daily lives and aren't realizing the tsunami wave that's building in the background. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. If you don't know a hurricane is coming, you don't do the preparations for it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Reds closes nursery over coronavirus. Club says employee tested positive by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. The nursery at Red Laurel's Health and Racket Club will be closed for at least 2 weeks after an employee tested positive for the coronavirus. Reds made the announcement Sunday on its Facebook page, noting that parents of children who were in the Reds nursery during the last 2 weeks while the employees were working have been notified by phone. We are very concerned about the safety and well-being of all of our members and workers, especially our children, the gym's post said. Therefore, we are closing the nursery until further notice, at least 2 weeks, until all of the workers can be tested, and we feel confident that they are COVID-free. This isn't the first Reds employee to test positive for the virus. Last week, Red Laurel confirmed the number of employees had tested positive for the virus, resulting in the temporary closure of the basketball court and hot plunge facilities. The gym will remain open to members as employees continue to encourage members to follow guidelines established by the CDC or the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to slow the spread of the coronavirus. We still feel confident that exercising and staying in shape is one of your best defenses against the virus, Sunday's Facebook post said. We recommend that you continue to follow the CDC guidelines. Reds encourage members to wear masks, wash and sanitize their hands frequently, clean equipment before and after use, and practice social distancing. We understand and appreciate that everyone wants to continue their activity level and get back to a normal life, Laurel wrote on Facebook. We hope to reopen the basketball court soon, but only if we can do it safely. We will reopen if we can get cooperation with social distancing and a limit of 2 persons per goal. We will inform you as soon as this decision is made. Thank you for your patience and understanding. We will continue to do everything we can to protect our members and our employees. Future of LUS topic of public meeting. Results of study to be presented in a webinar by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Results of a study looking at the future of the Lafayette utility system of LUS will be presented to the public Tuesday during a webinar with residents allowed to submit questions and comments. The city-owned utility system in September kicked off the integrated resource planning process, which was expected to last about a year. A report on the study is to be presented Tuesday, suggests LUS should continue to include fuel sources such as natural gas in its energy production portfolio, but should use more low-cost renewable energy sources as well. The Rotomaca 2 coal-powered electrical generating plant should be phased out by 2027, the study recommends, due to rising costs associated with meeting environmental regulations, as well as operating and maintenance costs. Retiring the plant would require concurrence from co-owners CLECO and the Louisiana Energy Power Authority, environmental regulators, and others. If the Rotomaca plant is eliminated, the study suggests, LUS should consider a self-build simple cycle gas turbine. Study recommends LUS start engineering studies to determine whether LUS retired Doc Bonin plant could be repurposed for that use. Before making any decisions regarding long-term power, though, the study suggests city leaders consider power purchase agreements as an alternative to the self-build option. LUS currently purchases some of its electricity through the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator Group. Study recommends LUS adds more renewable energy, particularly solar power, to its power purchases. Following the virtual meeting, LUS officials will continue to solicit feedback and answer questions from the public until July 15th, said Jeffrey Stewart, LUS Energy and Power Supply Manager. Afterward, LUS will publish the full IRP report. LUS intends to pursue 3 action terms recommended in the study, Stewart said. The first, which can begin immediately, is to study whether the Dock bone implant retired in April 2017 can be reused. There still exists natural gas supply in a major electric substation, he said in an email. LUS will assess the viability of reusing that site for future generation options. The next, Stewart said, is to solicit proposals for solar purchase power agreements. Ideally, we would have a contract in place by the end of 2020, Stewart said. Depending on the responses received, the actual energy delivery may not come until a later date once the facility is constructed and commissioned. The final recommendation is to retire the Rotomarker 2 coal-burning plant. Decisions on how to replace it, he said, will come later. The virtual meeting begins at 5:30 p.m. today. Residents may participate via just go to the LUS website, because this is all jumbly to me. Just go to the LUS Lafayette Utility System website, and there should be information and hopefully a link there to take you to the virtual meeting so you can participate if you wish. If you have any questions, they may be sent at irpfeedback@lus.org. Right? And then we're going to read a couple of public service announcements. The Diocese of Lafayette Office of Communications. Bishop Douglas Desautels of the Diocese of Lafayette has confirmed with Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory that churches are exempt from the updated COVID-19 guidelines now in effect in Lafayette Parish, which limit gatherings to 200 people and mandate the wearing of masks. All Catholic Church parishes in the diocese will continue to operate under the State of Louisiana Phase 2 reopening directives. Bishop Desautels continues to strongly recommend that parishioners wear masks while attending Mass. Camp Unique, Dreams Foundation, every summer the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana hosts the greatest camp of all, Camp Unique. Camp Unique is suited for individuals with special needs. Camp Unique will be held July 13th through 17th for ages 5 through 13 and July 20th through 24 for ages 14 and up. Fee will be $75, and the theme this year is Peace and Love. All Camp Unique sessions will be held at Lark's Acadian Village. Individuals of all ages have a blast participating in a camp that is specifically tailored to them. They get the opportunity to take part in activities such as art, fitness, karaoke, music, and dance, as well as getting a Camp Unique t-shirt and a snack every day. A highlight of Camp Unique this year will be the storytelling session by Chief Greyhawk Perkins, commented Dreams Foundation Executive Director Danielle Watkins. As a recognized expert on Native American and American colonial history, Perkins has inspired many audiences over the years, sharing tales of Asian cultures as a travel storyteller and as a teacher of various subjects in Louisiana's school system. The registration form for Camp Unique can be found on the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana website. That's dreamsfoundationaca.org. Volunteers are being sought at this time, so if you're interested in volunteering, complete the application on the Dreams website under the Volunteer tab. For more information about Camp Unique, you can contact Danielle Watkins by email at Danielle, that's DONIELLE, at dreamsfoundationaca.org, or you can simply call 337-962-1609. That's 337-962-1609. All right, getting back into the news. Musician responds to firing with T-shirt offers by Ken Stickney, staff writer. A Cajun musician fired from his day job for insensitive social media posts may cash in on his newly found notoriety. Jamie Bergeron's dismissal from Acadiana Ambulance last week was linked to his posting memes such as "All Lives Splatter" to a crowd of street protesters, such as those that have gathered in support of Black Lives Matter. He also reposted the photo of a white man in San Diego wearing a Ku Klux Klan hood, apparently in response to mandates for wearing masks during the pandemic. Black Lives Matter is at the forefront in protests involving the death of George Floyd, and some of the group's actions have included blocking public roadways. Bergeron has been employed by the ambulance company for 30 years, most of that time as a first responder. After someone complained to the company about his social media posts, Katie and the ambulance met with a paramedic, mostly through the Human Resources Department, before announcing the company and the employee had parted ways. A company spokesman said Acadian does not typically discuss individual employee matters, but did so in Bergeron's case because of its public nature. Bergeron, who is also the frontman for the popular Cajun band Jamie Bergeron and the Kicking Cajuns, posted the memes to his personal account, which also included photos of him in an Acadian ambulance uniform. In a 7-minute video posted by the musician last week, he suggested that the memes he reposted may have been insensitive but not racist. He suggested he had been targeted to look like a racist. Now Bergeron, who on his video last week thanked his former company for 30 years of employment, was peddling a t-shirt over the weekend to mark his dismissal from Acadiana Ambulance. Set on a dark background with a finger pointing straight ahead, the navy blue t-shirt reads on the front, "You're fired 2020." On the back, it features Bergeron's image, a Made in Louisiana tag, and what his website describes as his support stance, hashtag I stand with Jamie. Bergeron did not respond to any calls asking for comment. All right. In very big news, Louisiana's law cannot stand under our precedents. Supreme Court narrowly overturns Louisiana abortion law. Chief Justice Roberts cast deciding vote in the 5-4 ruling by Brian Stoll, staff writer. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday struck down a Louisiana law requiring doctors who perform abortions to have the right to admit patients to a nearby hospital. The 5-4 decision, with Chief Justice John Roberts joining the court's 4 more liberal justices, strikes down Louisiana's requirement that critics have contended was designed to shutter abortion clinics and make the procedure harder to find. The long-running legal challenge to the Louisiana law, which passed the state legislature overwhelmingly in 2014, but was immediately challenged and has never gone into effect, has attracted national scrutiny with stakes that extend far beyond the state's border. The state law at issue, called the Louisiana Unsafe Abortion Protection Act, is nearly identical to a similar Texas law struck down by the Supreme Court in 2016. It requires that all doctors who perform abortions have agreements from a local hospital within 30 miles, allowing them to directly admit patients for treatment. The Hope Medical Group for Women in Shreveport, which provides abortions among other medical services, sued to overturn the law with the backing of a number of anti-abortion rights groups, including the Center for Reproductive Rights, which represented the clinic and argued the case to the Supreme Court. That's abortion rights groups, not anti-abortion, as I was saying. Julie Reichelman, who represented abortion providers in the case, told Supreme Court justices in March that the law would do nothing for women's health, that nothing has changed since the Texas decision in 2016 that would justify such a legal about-face. In that case, Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstedt, the now retired Justice Anthony Kennedy joined the court's 4 liberal justices in a 5-3 ruling that declared there was no evidence that the Texas requirements would have helped even one woman obtain better treatment. Roberts voted in the minority to uphold the Texas law in the Whole Woman's Health decision, and in a separate opinion on Monday, continued to argue that the Supreme Court got that decision wrong. But Roberts, a conservative appointed by George W. Bush, wrote that the facts in the Louisiana case almost exactly matched the situation in Texas, and that legal doctrines demanded that the courts treat the cases alike. Louisiana law imposes a burden on access to abortion just as severe as that imposed by the Texas law for the same reasons, Roberts wrote. Therefore, Louisiana's laws cannot stand under our precedents. The U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal, which was also overturned in the Whole Woman's Health case, seemed to ignore the opinion when it ruled on Louisiana's law, which had been struck down by a district judge who cited the Supreme Court's guidance. The appellate court overturned the district judge, ruling that a handful of factual differences between the situation of abortion clinics in Texas and Louisiana meant the previous decision on a newly identical law did not apply. That virtually forced the Supreme Court to take up the matter again. Justice Stephen Breyer wrote an opinion, joined by Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Elena Kagan, formally finding that the law places an unconstitutional burden on a woman's right to obtain an abortion. Abortion complications requiring hospitalizations are vanishingly rare, Breyer wrote, and Louisiana offered no credible evidence that the admitting privileges requirement would provide any actual health protection for women. Roberts didn't sign on to Breyer's reasoning, but his own opinion agreed that the Louisiana law should be struck down, casting the decisive fifth vote. Kathleen Pittman, administrator for the Hope Medical Group for Women, said staff at the Shreveport Clinic were busy checking in patients when the Supreme Court's decision was released Monday, ending the clinic's 6-year legal battle against the law. To say we're elated hardly begins to come close to what we are feeling, Pittman said late Monday morning. We're actually still taking care of patients this morning, so the staff is having to try to calm down a little bit so patients can receive the care they deserve. The ruling, Pittman said, will allow all 3 of the state's clinics that perform abortions to remain open. Pittman described Louisiana's admitting privileges requirement as another in a long series of anti-abortion trap laws, burdensome regulations that advocates believe are aimed solely at driving clinics out of business or creating roadblocks for women seeking abortions that have been undermining our rights for years. This week, we're winning the battle, and that means we can stay open to fight another day, Pittman said. But as a provider, I'll tell you, I'm celebrating today, but I'm still worried about our future. Abortion opponents have hoped the Louisiana case might mark a key turning point on abortion rights, given that the makeup of the Supreme Court has shifted to the right since 2016. It's the first abortion case the court has taken up since the 2018 retirement of Kennedy, an appointee of President Ronald Reagan, who was a long key swing vote on abortion rights issues. Kennedy has since been replaced by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who arrived on the High Court with a history of anti-abortion rulings. A number of legal observers believe Kavanaugh's confirmation may have tipped the balance of the U.S. Supreme Court toward an anti-abortion majority. Justice Neil Gorsuch, another conservative seen as stoutly pro-life, also joined the court after the Texas ruling, but he replaced the late Justice Antonio Scalia, a firm opponent of abortion and advocate for overturning the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, or Roe v. Wade. But Monday's decision in the Louisiana case is an indication that even though the court now has an anti-abortion majority, the U.S. Supreme Court may be more inclined to move cautiously, if at all, toward rolling back decades of decisions upholding the legal right to abortion. Both Gorsuch and Kavanaugh issued slinging dissents to Monday's ruling, which both argued that Louisiana's admitting privileges requirement should have been upheld. They were joined by the court's 2 other staunch conservatives, Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. Backers of Louisiana's law, including Attorney General Jeff Landry, whose office defended it to the Supreme Court, have argued that the requirements designed to ensure the health of women getting abortions. Liz Morrell, Louisiana's Solicitor General, argued to the justices that admitting privileges at a nearby hospital would speed treatment for women who experience complications during the procedure and helps ensure the competence of the doctors performing it. Its challengers contend the true purpose of the Louisiana law is to make it harder for women to get abortions and prevent clinics from offering the procedure. Abortion complications are rare, critics of the Louisiana law have argued, and admitting privileges do nothing to make abortion safer, since women can receive treatment at a hospital whether or not the doctor who performed the abortion practice is there. Granting admitting privileges is often a business decision for hospitals based on the number of patients a doctor sends for treatment and not on their competence as a physician. Because abortions are relatively safe procedures, critics of the law contend, few doctors who will perform the procedure are likely to receive such privileges. Indeed, U.S. District Judge John T. Graubles, who initially struck down the law, ruled that only one doctor at any of the state's 3 abortion clinics in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport could have continued offering abortions if the law went into effect, with only the New Orleans clinic remaining open. Graubles was nominated to the bench by President Barack Obama. A doctor in Shreveport also obtained admitting privileges, but testified that he couldn't continue handling the critic's workload as the only doctor legally allowed to perform the procedure. In the last 23 years, Hope Clinic, which serves in excess of 3,000 patients per year, had only who required transfer to a hospital for treatment, Graubles wrote in his ruling. The law would limit access to safe abortions in Louisiana, Graubles wrote. While the state did not present any evidence that complications from abortion would be treated improperly, nor any evidence that any negative outcomes could have been avoided if the abortion provider had admitted privileges at a local hospital. But the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned Graubles' decision, ruling in part that doctors haven't tried hard enough to obtain admitting privileges. Murrell repeated that argument to the U.S. Supreme Court in March, claiming that Louisiana doctors may have sabotaged their own applications for admitting privileges to aid the legal challenge to the law. Justice Stephen Breyer, writing for the court's liberal wing, added a postscript to his opinion, brushing aside Murrell's contentions. He found her arguments, including Murrell's claim that the admitting privileges law is constitutional because it wouldn't go so far as to make it nearly impossible to obtain an abortion or place a burden on every woman seeking an abortion in Louisiana, were beside the point and mangled the relevant legal standards. All right, we're just a little bit past our halfway mark, so let me read a couple more public service announcements, and then we'll get on to the day in history, and the zodiac or horoscope, as I refer to it, and the funerals in the Kittiana area for today. Vitalant begins testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. Today, Vitalant became the first national blood bank to test all blood donations for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2. Today being June 1st, so we're way beyond that date. Coronavirus that causes COVID-19, the nation's largest independent nonprofit blood collector serving hospital patients in South Louisiana, is providing the test results to donors who complete successful blood donations, which are critically needed now. The antibody test authorized by the FDA will indicate if the donor's immune system has produced antibodies to the virus, regardless of whether they ever showed symptoms. It's possible that over time, the broad use of antibody tests and clinical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a lower risk of infection, and if so, for how long. For more information, visit vitalant.org/COVID-free. Donors are urged to give blood as soon as possible, so appointments are strongly considered or recommended. Visit vitalant.org or call 877-258-4825. That's 877-258-4825. AOC teams up with the Kittiana Way of Acadiana for Learning United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups from Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website, which is unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay, I'm looking at the day in history. Today is Tuesday, June 30th, the 182nd day of 2020. There are 184 potential shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on June 30th, 1971, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the government could not prevent the New York Times or the Washington Post from publishing the Pentagon Papers. On this date in 1865, 8 people, including Mary Surratt and Dr. Samuel Mudd, were convicted by a military commission of conspiring with John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of President Abraham Lincoln. 4 defendants, including Surratt, were executed. Mudd was sentenced to life in prison, but was pardoned by President Andrew Johnson in 1869. Also on this date in 1918, labor activist and socialist Eugene V. Debs was arrested in Cleveland, charged under the Espionage Act of 1917 for a speech he made 2 weeks earlier denouncing U.S. involvement in World War I. Debs was sentenced to prison and disenfranchised for life. In 1958, on this date, the U.S. Senate passed the Alaska Statehood Bill by a vote of 64-20. In 1963, Pope Paul VI was crowned the 262nd head of the Roman Catholic Church. In 1982, the proposed Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution expired, having failed to receive the required number of ratifications for its adoption, despite having its 7-year deadline extended by 3 years. In 1986, Supreme Court in Bowers versus Hardwick ruled 5-4 that states could outlaw homosexual acts between consenting adults. However, the nation's highest court effectively reversed this decision in 2003 in Lawrence versus Texas. In 1994, the U.S. Figure Skating Association stripped Tonya Harding of the national championship and banned her for life for her role in the attack on her rival, Nancy Kerrigan. In 1997, the Union Jack was lowered for the last time over Government House in Hong Kong as Britain prepared to hand the colony back to China at midnight after ruling it for 156 years. And also on this date in 2009, American soldier Private First Class Bo R. Burgande went missing from his base in the eastern Afghanistan and was later confirmed to have been captured by insurgents. Bergdahl was released on May 31, 2014 in exchange for 5 Taliban detainees. 10 years ago, President Barack Obama talked about the economy at a town hall in Racine, Wisconsin, saying we got it moving again, and that he intended to get our debt and our deficits under control, but warned he wouldn't slash spending at the expense of the economic rebound. 5 years ago, an Indonesian Air Force transport plane crashed, killing more than 122 people on board and 22 on the ground. 1 year ago, President Donald Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un met at the heavily fortified demilitarized zone between North and South Korea and agreed to revive talks on the North's nuclear program. A working level meeting in Sweden in October would break down over what the North Koreans described as the Americans' old stance and attitude. Looking at today's birthdays, actress Leah Mazaria is 87 years old. Songwriter Tony Hatch is 81. Actor Leonard Whiting is 70. Jazz musician Stanley Clarke, great bassist, is 69. Actor comedian David Alan Grier is 64. Actor Vincent D'Onofrio is 61. Actor Rupert Graves is 57. Former boxer Mike Tyson is 54. Actor comedian Tony Rock from the TV show Living Biblically is 51. Actor Brian Vincent is 50. And actress Molly Parker is 48. Looking at the zodiac for today, if you're a Cancer, choose your words thoughtfully and proceed with caution. Put your plans in place before you share your intentions. Your success depends on maintaining control and avoiding interference. Leos, focus on what's important to you. Learn new skills and research services you can offer others. Find a practical way to use your attributes to prosper. Virgos, put a smile on someone's face. Reaching out and doing your part will lead to an unexpected change to improve your life. Share your ideas, offer advice, and make a difference. Libras, carefully examine an offer someone makes that promises to help you look and do your best. Refuse to let someone pressure you into something you don't want to do. Scorpio, put your emotions into whatever you decide to do. Head in the direction that feels comfortable. If you plan your actions using intelligence as well as intuition, you will succeed. Sagittarius, make alterations at home that are conducive to helping you keep the peace. Use your space in a way that helps you add to your income. Capricorn, think big, but when it comes to putting your ideas in motion, stick to a budget and a carefully made practical plan. An in-depth discussion will yield positive results. Aquarius, spend more time addressing your concerns and less time trying to appease others. The more you give, the more others will expect from you. Take care of your needs first. Pisces, a change to how you handle your money will help you avoid coming up short. Put more time and effort into maintaining good health. Make fitness, diet, and rest priorities. Aries, keep your thoughts to yourself. If you act in haste or make assumptions, you will have to reverse your steps as the day progresses. Focus on fitness, health, and personal growth. Taurus, it's up to you to initiate change. Consider what makes you happy and pursue your dreams. If you share your feelings and intentions with someone you care about, you'll be given advice and support. Gemini, get serious about what you want, dig in and start the ball rolling, and you will discover something you enjoy doing that can result in extra income. And as always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature. Entertainment, folks, and not based on scientific fact. Looking at the funerals in the Kenneana area today, Jack Goodrich, St. Basil Cemetery at 2 p.m., Erline McFarland, St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church at 1110 1110 Old Spanish Trail in Scott at 2 p.m., and Wanda Mellebeck, David or David Funeral Home of Erath at 3 p.m. Okay, looking at a couple more public service announcements before we move back into the news. Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline. If you are feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding the public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services in our area. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. You can call 866-310-7977. That's 1-866-310-7977. Locally, you can call 311 for up-to-date COVID-19 information. At Stop the Spread, call instead, #Stop the Spread. You can also visit 311 Lafayette.services to get more information. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. And you can also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Also in LEDA, individuals whose hours are being reduced at work or have been laid off from employment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account or need help, Resetting your password, call Lafayette's Acadiana Workforce Solutions Office at 337-262-5601. Due to high call volume, some calls may not be answered immediately. Call again at a later time or contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. In addition to unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income, part-time and full-time workers, by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at lafayette.org/helpwanted, or LEADER's a virtual job fair page with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment opportunities at lafayette.org/jobs. Okay, getting back into our news for today. $250 for frontline workers approved. Bill awaits governor's signature by Sam Carlin. Staff writer. Louisiana lawmakers gave final legislative approval Monday to send $250 hazard paychecks to up to 200,000 frontline workers as negotiations over the state budget and business priorities, like overhauling the legal system, continued late into the night. The proposal to send checks to workers heads to the desk of Governor John Bel Edwards, who said he supports it and represents a highlight of Democrats' accomplishments in a special session that was premised in large part on coronavirus recovery. The legislation, House Bill 70, by Representative Sam Jenkins, Democrat from Shreveport, uses a small fraction of the state's federal coronavirus aid, $50 million or more than $1.8 billion available, to steer money to workers who interacted with the public at the height of the state's outbreak. It won unanimous approval in both chambers of the legislature, getting steam in the latter part of the session that must end by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, after Republicans successfully redirected $300 million in aid originally headed to local governments to be used instead of grants for small businesses. Democrats crafted the plan for the hazard pay. Jenkins said it was only fair to send $50 million to workers given the $300 million sent to businesses. Several Democrats say they don't believe the bill goes far enough and would prefer to spend more on workers. Jenkins said it was difficult to get more to workers because the money was already promised to local governments, who have also been hit hard by the pandemic. I would have been surprised had I not seen bipartisan support for something that was going to get some money to all the people who represent, Jenkins said. These people live all throughout our state and live in all of our districts. The Louisiana Department of Revenue will send out notices for people to begin applying in mid-July, Jenkins said. A spokesman for the agency did not respond to questions on Monday. Under the legislation, workers would need to apply for the checks and would qualify if they make less than $50,000 a year and employed in a list of jobs deemed essential. Those include health workers, emergency, fire, and law enforcement personnel, bus drivers, garbage workers, grocery store and convenience store workers, and others. The workers must have worked at least 200 hours between March 22nd through May 14th, when the state's stay-at-home order was in place. Democrats pushed the bill as a counterpoint to Republicans sending hundreds of millions of dollars to businesses. Jenkins' bill would cost $50 million of the state's $1.8 billion in federal coronavirus aid. The Republican-led legislature has put forth a host of measures that will cut taxes for businesses, send $300 million in federal aid to small businesses, and change the state's civil laws to limit payouts to plaintiffs and their attorneys, which business groups would argue would lower car insurance rates. The effort, called tort reform by business and insurance supporters, has sucked up much of the time and energy of the legislature in recent months and remained unresolved as the session approached its end. Republicans were negotiating with Democratic Governor Edwards, who voted a sweeping tort reform bill passed in the final hours of the regular legislative session that ended June 1st. Lawmakers in the House have hoped to finish their work Monday, but negotiations pushed the session to its final day. Republican legislative leadership flexed its independence from the governor before the special session even began by calling lawmakers into sessions themselves. Historically, the governor calls lawmakers into session. The GOP-led legislature also scored Monday when Edwards notified that he had signed the state's $5.5 billion construction budget without striking any items out via the governor's powerful line item veto authority. Governors in Louisiana yield considerable power, in part because of the so-called line item veto ability. Governor can simply remove any project from the construction budget, called House Bill 2, with the stroke of a pen. Edwards chose not to do this at this time in a break with past practices. Lafayette Republican Stuart Bishop, chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, said the bill represented history, and he touted his move to divert millions in planned projects to the state's savings account. A group of lawmakers were also meeting behind closed doors to hash out what the state budget will look like for the fiscal year that starts Wednesday. Among the issues were a proposal by state senators to free pay raises for state employees until at least October and a new hospital payment plan crafted by Edwards' administration. A law could give juvenile lifers chance at freedom by Jacqueline DeRobertis, staff writer. A new law could give some of Louisiana juvenile lifers a chance at freedom, part of a year-long push to rethink prison sentences in the state with the highest incarceration rate in the country. Act 99, which passed with bipartisan support, grants automatic parole eligibility to offenders convicted of crimes as children once they have served 25 years and met certain pre-release qualifications. Lawmakers aim to provide virtual juvenile lifers, those serving so many decades behind bars that their time becomes a functional life sentence, a chance to prove they've changed their ways before they reach old age. Some juvenile justice advocates think the language of the law goes even further. They believe it essentially abolishes the sentences of life without parole for children and clears a way for those who have received such a sentence to receive a parole hearing automatically. This changes so many people's lives, said Renee Slaja, communications director for the Louisiana Center for Children's Rights, a New Orleans-based nonprofit. It gives every child an opportunity for a second chance. It gives hope to a lot of people and their families who were sentenced as children to die in prison. Key players who helped pass the bill, however, say it was never meant to apply to sentences of juvenile life without parole, just those lengthy sentences. And let's see. It's a long story, so I'll cut it a little short because we do have a sports story to read. As the coronavirus pandemic has raged on, public defenders have been facing a budget crisis. Cases have featured prominently in board discussions, from cutting contracts with nonprofits like the Louisiana Center for Children's Rights to redistributing the cases to district defenders. Some point out the public defender's financial woes will be partially alleviated if Act 99 removes the need for representation. Louisiana moving so far forward on this shows that we understand the issue of brain development and the fact that children can redeem themselves as they grow up, Slaja said. If we understand that, we have to understand that applies to every child. All right, and looking at our sports story for the morning. Repeat feat. Zacharias Burrell wins Louisiana's Gatorade Boys Track Honor again by Robin Fambro, staff writer. Repeat performances are nothing new for Zacharias High Sean Burrell. While becoming Louisiana's all-time record holder in the 400 meters, Burrell won multiple indoor and outdoor track titles. He also was part of the two Class A 5A football title teams. A season-ending pandemic could not stop Burrell from completing the most impressive double take of his career. The LSU track signee was selected as the 2019-20 Louisiana Gatorade Boys Track Athlete of the Year for the second straight season. The award was announced in a Monday morning news release. Getting it, the Gatorade Award, the first time was just a blessing. and I was happy to get it, Burrell said. My senior year, it wasn't my top priority. I wanted to lead my team and do whatever I had to do to help us with the state championship and also get ready for college. Winning it again is also a blessing. We didn't get to finish the season. That was hard, but I moved on from that. I'm ready to get on campus at LSU so I can train with the other athletes and coaches. The Gatorade Honor recognizes athletic excellence, high academic standards, exemplary character demonstrated on and off the field. Burrell is now eligible to win the National Gatorade Honor to be announced next month. The 5'10", 170-pound Burrell won individual titles in the 60-meter hurdles and the 400-meter dashes, in addition to earning a share of the two relay crowns, the 4x200 and the 4x400, at the 2020 All-State Sugar Bowl LHSAA Indoor Championships. I'm so proud of Sean for everything he accomplished. He is the kind of athlete that elevates a program, Zachary coach Chris Carrier said. We have a lot of guys on our team who came out because they wanted to run with Sean. That speaks to the athlete and the person he is. Burrell, whose nickname is Squirrel, had a personal best time of 7.98 seconds in the 16-meter hurdles, ranked as the nation's number 14 clocking tie among prep indoor competitors, while his season best 48.63 tied for the nation's number 26 ranking. During the 2019 outdoor season, Burrell swept the 200 and 400 dash events at the 5A state meet, helping the Broncos finish second as a team. His season best times of 20.79 in the 200 and 46.52 in the 400 ranked number 15 and number 7 in the country, respectively, among prep outdoor competitors. Also, the 2019 Louisiana Male Track MVP, Burrell was an all-state selection in 4 events in the 2020 indoor campaign. Burrell was the nation's number 5 track recruit for 2020, according to Mile Split. He graduates with 9 state championship medals while maintaining a 3.45 grade point average. An avid angler who helps his family raise American bully show dogs, Burrell is a member of the Serve 225 charitable organization, which assists the needy around Baton Rouge. Also the son of a firefighter, Burrell often accompanies his father on visits to under-resourced communities to distribute food and perform chores around the house for local elderly. He also donated his time as a mentor and coach for young track athletes. After choosing to step away from football last fall, Burrell organized and led a team cheering section of special needs students. Sounds like we need more of Mr. Burrell and among our children. Well, Acadiana, that about wraps up all the news for the Acadiana area and for the state in sports and day in history. As always, I am very happy to be able to bring this service to our community of the visually impaired and also for the community that do not receive the newspaper or have access to the news cycle. We provide this service every Monday through Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We appreciate you tuning in and listening. If you're at all interested in becoming a volunteer like myself, you can go to our website, which is aocinc.org, and you will find there at our homepage a form to fill out as a volunteer newspaper reader. Come join our family, and I'm sure you will enjoy the experience. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, be very vigilant out there about the pandemic, wear your mask, wash your hands, sanitize when necessary, and just understand truly that we all are in this together and we have to get through it together. So please understand that. And this thing is not going to go away anytime soon. So we just have to hang in there as much as we can. But if we do it together, it will be a lot easier. So good morning, Acadiana, and as always, be kind to each other.